Welcome back, everyone, to episode 4. A bit emotional. It's the last 10 minutes, really, I've got with Tom. It's been a journey, one can say. No pun intended. So, in this episode, we're just going to be sort of unpacking a really big theme, and something that's taken up a lot of time here at Tribal, given the fact it sort of pretty much sits at the core of what we've done for 25 years, which is re-platforming for the future. Now, what do I mean by this? I suppose what I mean by this is predominantly website re-platforms, but I think more broadly speaking, the kind of technical stack really that sort of sits behind a lot of businesses, services and products. And so when you're re-platforming anything, it can be really disruptive, very costly, very complex for organizations. And as such, they tend to be done as infrequently as possible. But we definitely think that clients have taken 2021 as an opportunity to do these really arduous tasks. And redesign their websites, and I think a lot of this falls out of our previous episodes. To be honest, I think it's been driven by the need to adapt to more diverse audiences with different needs and requirements, and also the needs to innovate within their customer journeys, to move from transactional to experientially led interactions, as well as the need to sort of change processes within the business. So that's why we're sort of talking about this last, because I think it falls out of a lot of the previous episodes. But Tom, really keen to hear from you, to be honest, around sort of what I suppose the last 18 months has taught Lonely Planet, and what that's meant for the technology roadmap moving forward, and how that can kind of unlock new products, new services, greater potential within the brand. So to sort of see this shift to, I guess, a digital post-pandemic. Talk to us more about this.
Well, one of the things that's been fundamental to the past 18 months for Lonely Planet has been being under new ownership, being owned by Red Ventures. So a group of digital brands that look to help with life's decisions, and if they're not, they obviously cover travel with Lonely Planet, but they also cover a pretty huge range of different brands around the world who would help with a whole swathe of things. So this idea of re-platforming, as you put it, I think was very much central to one of the things that we wanted to do with Red Ventures when we were on board with them, and take advantage of their expertise in these areas. I think one key thing though is that before doing that, and before sort of just diving in and trying to sort of reboot a tech stack and completely take away some of the things that can be very visible frustrations of running a business. Oh, we'd love to do it, we'd love to do this, we'd love to do that. If you work with editorial teams, digital editorial teams, they're always wanting more functionality and looking at what other people are doing, other brands are doing, media competitors who work in very different ways, and say, oh right, we want to be able to do that. Before doing that, I think there's a need for a really strong underpinning of an overall brand direction right at the top, right at the start. Okay, what are we trying to do? What are we here for? And then the next step down from that, what does that look like? What does that sound like? What's the tone of voice? What's the positioning that we have? What are our imagery guidelines? Okay, set that really foundational groundwork, and then move on to something. Even if you're talking about doing something which is behind the scenes and you're not necessarily seeing it, doing that work, I think, has been something which has really been a unifying task within the business, and something that we've all been able to go back to and say, okay, these are the things that we all agreed, and use that as a basis. Now, I think then you can move on to saying, okay, with a degree of greater certainty, this is what we want to do first. This is what we want to prioritize. This is how we roll through some of these tasks. And I'm sure that the results are sort of better for it. The other thing is, and I've sort of touched on this in previous conversations, is with a digital offering like Lonely Planet has, which is quite large and quite complicated, it's never going to be the case of that being a quick fix or an A to B exercise. That needs to be a sort of constant piece of work, really, because you've not just got your website, you've got other things that you might want, be putting at the top of your priority list, but are still really fundamentally important, whether that's social media or mobile or whatever it is. And it's not just about doing something quick, it's about where are you going for the long term. So there's quite a lot in the question. And I think the other point is, this year, yes, it has been a good time in one way to think about some of these things, but the expectations of your audience hasn't changed yet. You're not being given a free kick by your audience to say, okay, well, I'm having an experience that's subpar because it's 2021. Their experiences are high, if not higher, because people are consuming a huge amount of information this way. So putting all of these things in the right order, I think, is probably the first step. And then, making sure that all of this work is being done as part of an overall roadmap for the business.
Yeah, no, definitely. I really love that point at the start around just stopping and just taking a moment to really understand why you're doing something before you just decide, yeah, we're going to go do this. That's definitely really important. Thanks for that, Tom. Well, and I think as you move into 2022, what would you say are the sort of, I suppose, key customer drivers or kind of key sector trends that you are going to be really kind of key watch-outs for you and will sort of drive such innovation within Lonely Planet? Whether that be, things like cookies going and the need to sort of find other ways to drive personalization, or whether it is, some of the key travel trends that we've talked about in previous episodes, needing you to be more reliant on different channel mixes and stuff. What are the key kind of trends and watch outs for you, I suppose, over the next 12 months?
I'm not sure if it's a trend or if it's something that's sort of always at the heart of what you're doing, but just having as close a possible ongoing personal relationship with the consumer via whichever tool you want. So clearly, we would be using social media as much as we can, not just as a way of broadcasting, but of kind of having this back and forth conversation. I think email is really, really important and needs to be kept at the forefront of people's minds, because a lot of brands would now be be in the position of having substantial email I suppose lists, relationships with customers, and that's an important and different way to communicate. And I think the other things are really about probably putting in what I've said before about a very strong sense of understanding why you're doing things, with regard to how to the information you're getting back from your consumer. That, as travel expands and evolves, is more important than ever, because that's partly about where you're going to put your resources into different things, and it's going to also inform probably the last point, which is just partnerships. Across the board, to be thinking in an interesting amount of partnerships, whether that's from a sales perspective, whether that's from a transactions perspective, a brand perspective. There's loads of different ways that you can take that, but I think that is going to be something that's really, really important for us as we go into next year.
Definitely. Well, thank you for that, Tom. Listen, we've come to the end of this series, and certainly would love to put the offer on the table for anyone watching these episodes, that if anything's been mentioned that has sort of sparked a thought or sparked some inspiration, please don't hesitate to reach out to us here at Tribal, and would love to unpack some of these topics in greater detail for you. But for now, I want to thank you, Tom, for giving up your time to record this series, and want to thank you all for taking the time to watch it. And we look forward to welcoming you to the next Tribal Meets, which will be with our own Chief Technology Officer. And also coming up will be with our new Managing Partner and Chief Client Officer. So keep an eye out for those episodes coming through. But for now, I'd like to say goodbye, and goodbye to you as well, Tom.
Thanks very much for having me.
Cheers.